Happy Father's Day, everyone. There's a special village in southern Ecuador where people didn't grow above 4 feet tall. And scientists studied them for over 11 years and found out that these people never got cancer or diabetes. And one of the leading reasons they didn't was because IGF-1 was suppressed and muted as a result of this dwarfism. The study that they published was called Growth Hormone Receptor Deficiency is associated with a major reduction in pro-aging signaling, cancer, and diabetes in human. I'll pay homage to scientists in the end, but what this is really telling us is because IGF-1 is turned off, they didn't grow, but their ability to grow, all of the deleterious tumors that could impact their longevity was turned off too. So no tumor growth for them. This study was conducted over 11 years. Now, they followed up with another study in 2014 called Low Protein Intake is Associated with a Major Reduction in IGF-1 Cancer and Overall Mortality in 65 and younger, but not older population. What are they saying? In this study, they discovered that high protein intake, specifically from meat, red meat, increased IGF-1 production. So in this study, they realized that when people consume too much protein, especially red meat, their IGF-1 goes up. And because their IGF-1 goes up, their likelihood of cancer goes up because IGF-1 fuels tumor growth. Phenomenal. So if you think about it, Ecuador, IGF-1 suppressed. They could eat as much as they want, never got disease. But if you don't have this syndrome called the Lorenz syndrome, which is what this unique type of dwarfism was, and you ate a lot of protein, red meat specifically, your IGF-1 goes up. So what does that tell us? We got to be careful with our protein intake, especially when it comes to red meat. So what does he recommend? What should we eat? I'm 50. Many of you I know that are listening to the podcast, friends and family, are between 50 and 60. This is a period of time when you're between 50 and 60 where tumor growth is accelerated. So we have to be extra careful here. And that's why we hear a lot of people getting cancer during this part of our lives. What drew my attention to Dr. Valter Longo, who was responsible for or part of both studies, was he had written this book called The Longevity Diet, which talked about ways for people to fast and how fasting could be really effective in helping people reduce weight and curtail certain diseases such as cancer. And I had read this book about 5 years ago. And sure enough, I also went on this fasting protocol. But years now, after re-listening to his book the second time, I realized that fasting can be somewhat deleterious to your health if you're not doing it correctly. And he cites in his book, The Longevity Diet, I'll put it in the show notes, where his mentor had went into the biosphere project in Arizona, which simulated Mars. And they had a very low, they basically went on a fasting diet. They ate very little. They were on a restricted diet. And his mentor, this gentleman, came out and passed not long after that experiment. So he thought that fasting could be deleterious to human health, but he also did some research at the time where he was studying yeast. He realized that when he starved yeast and replaced what fuel the yeast was consuming from sugar to water, that the yeast increased their life. And so their biological age and their chronological age started to separate. So some yeast may be a year old chronologically, but because of this reduction of sugar and replacement into water, their biological age was maybe a month. So he thought there might be a way to bring the best practice of fasting in a manner that was beneficial to human health, to offset diseases such as cancer and diabetes. And he created this at USC, at the Department of Gerontology and Longevity, where he's a key player in that department, called FMD, Fasting Mimicking Diet, where it's not 100% fasting. You're still giving people who are fasting calories so that you don't end up with patients or candidates that are malnutrition. And this is what he cautions everyone when it comes to self-administered fasting is you may think you're losing fat, but you may be losing nutrients too, especially nutrients that keep your muscles alive. So he was very much against fasting protocols that were not driven by careful guardrails. So you can get his book and then read more about it, and I'll do other episodes on it. But the point is, don't just fast. Make sure you are fasting under doctor's consideration and also not starving yourself. Because if you're older, you may be starving yourself. You may feel like you're losing fat and weight, but effectively you may be losing muscle that's hard to rebuild or bones that are hard to rebuild. You know, we studied this in my master's program. It's virtually impossible to gain bone. It's more likely your whole battle with osteoporosis or osteopenia is to reduce the loss of bone and improve bone geometry. Building bone is hard. Building muscle is hard, especially after 65. Maintaining muscle mass is critical. That's why GLP-1 is so controversial. Is you're taking GLP-1, you may be reducing your weight, but a lot of that weight comes at the expense of muscle, which is critical for strength and power. Long story short, be careful with fasting. Don't fast without consideration from your doctor. And take a look at the book. I think it's really important on how he articulates what careful fasting means. So take it easy when it comes to protein. Make sure you eat, between 2, 3, 4 fistfuls a day, depending on your age. I'll have the scale in the show notes. But if you must take in meat protein, do it sparingly, 2 to 3 times a week at most. Use fish with low mercury, which is not tuna, but more like salmon. I'll put it in the show notes too. I can't quite remember all the fish you went through. And then, of course, if you're vegan and you're taking most of your protein from, nuts and lentils, etc., you want to make sure you have a right mix of them, because they all have different amino acids, different types of amino acids, which it has to be the right amino acids to sustain the strength, to sustain what your muscles need. That's something he highlights. This guy spent 30 years studying this. I'm going to take his word for it. So what does that tell me? What's my takeaway? Don't fast just to fast. Be careful, because you may be losing key nutrients when you fast. Don't skip breakfast. He tells you not to skip breakfast. Eat a heavy lunch, or eat a heavier lunch and eat a lighter dinner. If you must eat a lighter lunch, then eat and a heavier dinner. Then make sure you eat within a 12-hour to 13-hour window. Try not to eat 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. those are like the general takeaways from this book. So summary, eat more proteins from nuts and lentils. Take it easy on cheese. Take it easy on eggs. Take it easy on dairy. Dairy also stimulates IGF-1. When you're over 65, after 65, you can increase your protein intake because having more protein later in life seems to extend lifespan. And that's all suggested in his book. So I'll do another episode on that. But this is a Father's Day kind of episode where I'm just giving myself some reminders like, hey, take it easy on the protein, eat lots of vegetables, 3 fistfuls of proteins a day, don't overeat, don't lose muscle mass by fasting, because when you're not giving yourself enough nutrients, you're going to lose that muscle mass. Very hard to gain it back at 50. So we got to protect everything we got. And that's it. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to read the 2 studies now and pay homage to the scientists like I always do. Okay. Study number 1. Low protein intake is associated with major reduction in IGF-1 cancer and overall mortality in the 65 and younger, but not older population. Morgan E. Levine, George A. Suarez, Sebastian Banhorst, Priya Balasubra Chia Wei Cheng, Federica Medea, Luigi Fontana, Mario G. Mirasola, Jamie Guevara, Guevara, Aguirre, Zhengshen Wan, Giuseppe, Passarino, Brian K. Kennedy, Ming Wei, Pinchas Cohen, Eileen M. Crimmins, Valter D. Longo. And then the second study is growth hormone receptor deficiency associated with a major reduction in pro-aging signaling, cancer, and diabetes in humans. This is the one about the Ecuadorian village in southern Ecuador. Jamie Guevara Aguirre, Priya, Balasubra, Marco Guevara Aguirre, Ming Wei, Frederica Medea, Ching Wei Cheng, David Juan, Alejandro Martin Montalvo, Jeanette Salvadera, Sue Ingles, Rafael De Cabo, Pinche Cohen, and Valter D. Longo. Thank you all. Thank you, scientists. I appreciate it. We all appreciate your work. Thank you.